share this analogy. It comes up quite a bit. I think when we have ADHD or ADHD tendencies, there tends to be a feeling of just not doing it right, just not like the struggle feels hard, whether it's around planning, organizing, implementing, showing up consistently, whatever it is. And I think the thoughts that I see through my clients over and over, experience for myself at times is like, it seems like it's not that hard to figure out. Like I should be able to get this, right? I look around and so many other people are getting it. And so I want you to think of this analogy. Imagine you're a freshwater trout swimming in a creek, right? And you are like the top trout. Everyone knows you. You're like super productive, busy, up and down the creek all day, doing all the things that a freshwater trout does. And then you kind of glance over, you hear about this place called the ocean, you get brought over there and you find yourself in new territory. And all of a sudden you are unable to keep up. You feel tired, you're worn down, you feel lost, you have no sense of direction. All you see is water everywhere. It's harder to breathe. You tell yourself, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm a fish, I can swim. What's the deal? Why does this feel so challenging, right? Why can't I do the things that I see the other fish in the water doing? Which direction do I go, right? And we're thinking it's just about us, the fish. Fish should be able to swim in water. That's the belief. Well, in the creek, the banks are on the side, so there's structure, there's clarity, you know which way to go. It's like one way or the other. In the ocean, there's a lot of the time, there's not going to be any structure. There's no bank that you can see for miles around. There's just going to be open water. Not only that, the water's different. There's salt in it. So it's going to be harder on your body. It's going to be harder on your lungs, harder to breathe. It's going to be harder on your mind because you're going to try to figure it out a lot more than you would if you were just existing in your freshwater creek. And so, yes, while water's water and fish are fish, the environments are different. And so I think when we're expecting a more neurodivergent brain to fully and optimally function in the parameters of a more neurotypical situation, and then beating ourselves up when it doesn't happen the way that we think it should, it's like a freshwater fish swimming in the ocean, right? The environments are similar. There's people, there's buildings, there's structures, but just the expectations and the way the brains kind of work in each environment are really different. What's an example of a creek versus ocean in real life? Oh, great question. I think, because I'm just coming out of a call, so this is front of mind, sometimes it can be like a super corporate situation that has a lot of multitasking going on and like the top skills needed. It will not necessarily be said this way in the job description, but it should be said this way. Top priorities, top qualifications are prioritizing, breaking things down, chunking it down into smaller parts, delegating, all of those things that lean really heavily on executive function skills. That would be an example of the ocean, because executive function is where the challenges are at when we have ADHD. And so if you're attracted to a job that really what is needed is a solid set of executive function skill working, that's going to be a challenge. It's not that you can't do it, right? You can do anything, mindset, toolkit. It's just going to take so much more work to try to function in that environment. An example of a creek, for some people, it means more of a position that has to do with connecting. So a lot of times, myself, having worked in corporate and in a like non-corporate situation, customer relationship management. So even when I was in corporate, being in a more of a relationship management type of a position was much more satisfactory and helpful than being in like a strictly math and data position that had a lot of moving parts and projects that had a lot of details to them. Sometimes it's a more creative endeavor, right? So like an opportunity where you can think outside of the box and problem solve and be creative. For many people, that's being an entrepreneur. That is often a great choice for people with ADHD. Not the only choice and not for everybody, but it is a common selection just because there is that ability to kind of dance to the beat of your own drum and like exercise all of your skills, show up in the biggest way possible for yourself. I think the trick there is knowing when to hire to support the areas of executive function that you need. A lot of people with ADHD also gravitate towards high risk careers. So again, entrepreneurship can feel very high risk. Navy SEALs, EMTs, surgeons, doctors, the really hands-on type of jobs. And then the paper stuff in the background is in the ocean. So like if you're in the back end and you're managing all of the paperwork and the details, that's going to lean really heavily on executive function versus you're the person in there actually doing the surgeries, hands-on, thinking on your feet in the moment. That's more an example of a freshwater fish staying in the creek.